When my son stopped answering my calls after his wedding, I told myself he must be busy. I whispered it gently to my own heart, again and again, like a mother trying to soothe a child. He will call tomorrow. He must be tired. He will remember me. But tomorrow came again and again, and my phone stayed silent. I remember sitting near the window every evening, the same way I used to wait for him to return from school when he was small. Back then, he would run toward me with his tiny backpack bouncing behind him. His smile would light up the house before the sun could. His voice would fill every quiet corner. But now, even when the sun went down and the house became cold and dark, my phone did not ring. Silence has a sound. It feels like the ticking of a lonely clock, like footsteps that never arrive, like a door that does not open anymore. And yet I smiled. Not because it did not hurt, but because I did not want life to see my tears before I understood why they were falling. I am a mother. Mothers wait. We wait with hope, with faith, with open doors and warm hearts. But there are moments in life when waiting becomes heavy, when hope trembles quietly, afraid it might break, when the heart whispers, "What did I do wrong?" This is the story of how my son got married and how I slowly became a guest in his life. Not with anger, not with complaints, just with a soft sadness, like dust settling on forgotten furniture, quiet, invisible, but real. It is not a story of blame. It is a story of love that stretched until it shook and then found its way back, like a tired bird returning home at sunset. I am telling this story so someone listening, someone who feels forgotten, can know they are not alone. And so someone who has forgotten someone may remember before it is too late. The afternoon light was soft, warm, golden. It touched the curtains the same way it had for years, but the room felt different. A little quieter, a little emptier. My phone lay in my lap, a small device holding so many hopes inside it. I dialed his number again. It rang. Just once. Then silence. I smiled. Habit, I suppose. He must be busy, I whispered to myself, even though I already knew the sentence by memory. I looked at the framed photograph on the shelf, his graduation day. His arm around me, his smile so bright, my heart almost bursting with pride. Back then, he held my hand tightly. Back then, he didn't want to let go. Now it felt like he held another hand, and mine had slipped quietly away. Not thrown away, just forgotten for a moment. Love does not disappear fast. It fades like a sunset, slowly, gently, hoping someone will notice before the night comes. I remember the day he first told me about her. He stood by the kitchen doorway, shy like a young boy again. "Mom, I met someone." His voice was soft, unsure. I felt a warmth fill my chest. My son, my little boy, finding love. Isn't that a mother's dream? "What is she like?" I asked, smiling. His eyes lit up. "She's kind, smart. You will like her." And when I met her, I did like her. A gentle girl, polite, with dreams in her eyes and respect in her smile. When she touched my hand for the first time, I felt hope. hope that my son would have a partner who stood beside him, supported him, loved him. I never imagined that one day my calls would feel like interruptions, that my presence would feel like a burden they didn't know how to carry. But life is not cruel. It just moves forward faster than we expect. Sometimes people hold on to each other and move together. Sometimes they forget to look back. The day of the wedding was beautiful. Fresh flowers everywhere. Soft music. Smiling faces. I wore the sari my son chose for me. Blue. He said it matched my eyes. A silly compliment, but one that made me feel young, loved. When he put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Mom, thank you for everything," I felt like the happiest woman in the world. Many people say weddings are beginnings, but for mothers, they are beginnings and endings at the same time. A new chapter for the children, a quieter chapter for us. Still, I was ready. Ready to share him with someone else. Ready to stand a little further back so he could walk forward. I only hoped he would still turn back and smile sometimes. That is all mothers need. One look, one call, one moment that says, "I remember you." The first week after they returned from their trip, he called every day. "Mom, we bought a new lamp. Mom, she cooked pasta. Mom, I miss your tea." Every call felt like sunlight entering my home. I laughed softly. I offered advice only when asked. I tried not to disturb. I tried to be gentle, invisible if needed. Love learns to be invisible sometimes. Then calls became every 2 days, then once a week, then missed calls from my side, returned hours later with hurried voices. "Sorry, Mom, we were out. We were tired. We had friends over." Nothing wrong, nothing unkind, just life moving. And then one day, no return call at all, just silence. Long, slow, echoing silence. When you grow older, feelings do not shout anymore. They sit quietly, like guests you did not expect, waiting for you to acknowledge them. I did not cry. Instead, I made tea. I watered my plants. I folded clothes slowly. I told myself stories to protect my heart. He is learning to build his own family. They are newly married. They deserve space. Love changes shape. It does not disappear. And yet, in the quiet evenings, I would touch the armrest where he used to sit. I would open the window he always leaned beside. I would keep a plate for him out of habit. A mother's habits do not break easily. They are made of years and years of love, of mornings waking a small boy, of nights waiting for a teenager to return home, of meals shared, of clothes washed, of worries hidden, of dreams whispered. Now those habits sat beside me like ghosts of time, not frightening, just a little sad. One afternoon, I gathered the courage to go see him, not to complain, just to see his face, to hear his voice, to let him know I was still here. I carried sweets, his favorite. When I reached the door and rang the bell, I heard voices inside. Laughter, music. I smiled. He was happy. That is all I ever wanted. When his wife opened the door, she looked surprised. "Oh, Auntie, you didn't tell us you were coming." Her tone was not cruel, just unprepared. But sometimes unprepared hearts feel like unwelcome walls. "I was nearby," I lied softly. "I thought I would see you both." She hesitated, then stepped aside. Their living room was warm, cozy, filled with little decorations that showed new beginnings. I felt happy for them, truly.
He came out from the kitchen. He smiled, small, surprised. "Mom, you should have called." His words were gentle, but they sat in my chest like a tiny weight. Should have called. Once I could walk into his room without knocking. Once he would call me 10 times a day. Now I needed permission. Now I needed to inform. Growing up is a beautiful thing. Growing distant is not. I sat for a while. We spoke politely. They offered tea. I stayed only 10 minutes. I did not want to make anyone uncomfortable. When I left, he said, "Take care, Mom." Not "come again." Not "stay for dinner." Not "we miss you." Just "take care." I nodded. I smiled. Then I walked home slowly, step by step, like someone learning to walk again. That night, I sat by the window again. The streetlight outside flickered softly. The world felt gentle, but far away. I placed the sweets on the table. They remained untouched. When love has nowhere to go, it sits quietly in the room with you. I did not cry. Tears come from shock. Silence comes from acceptance. But acceptance is not peace. It is only understanding. Peace takes longer. It arrives only when the heart is ready, and mine was still learning. I whispered into the quiet room, "I am happy he has a life. I am happy he has love." And then softly, almost like a child hiding fear in a whisper, "I hope I still have a place in it." If you are listening to me now, maybe you know this feeling of loving someone quietly, of being forgotten gently, not cruelly, of waiting without complaint, of hoping without asking. Mothers do not stop loving. We just learn to love from a distance. Sometimes close, sometimes so far that even our voice feels like a disturbance. But love stays. It always stays. This was just the beginning of my silence. The story did not end here. Life, like love, changes slowly. And sometimes, when the heart hurts enough, it begins to speak again. I tried to distract myself, watering plants, sweeping the porch, arranging the same bookshelf again and again. Life kept moving around me, but inside, time felt still, stuck between hope and worry. Every evening, I would make tea for two. Habit is a gentle ache. When you break it, you feel it like a soft bruise inside the heart. And so, instead of breaking the habit, I just sat with it. I would place one cup on the opposite side of the table. It stayed untouched, warm for a moment, then slowly turning cold. Much like a relationship that is not tended to. Warm at first, fading quietly. One afternoon, a neighbor's daughter came to visit her mother. I heard laughter from the yard next door. Joyful, lively, full of inside jokes only family understands. "Look at you," the mother laughed. "You look so happy." And the girl replied, "How can I not be happy when I am with you?" I smiled at the sound, not with jealousy, but with memory. My son once spoke to me like that, full of excitement, full of need, full of love that had no doubt where home was. I whispered to myself, "He loves me still. Perhaps he just does not know how to show it right now." When we love someone deeply, we always search for gentle explanations. We protect them even in their absence. That evening, I picked up my phone again. I stared at his name on the screen for a long time. Calling used to be easy. It used to be natural, like breathing. Now it felt like knocking on a door where I was no longer sure I belonged. Still, I pressed call. It rang again. Then his voice, tired, distracted. "Mom, is everything okay?" He sounded worried, but not about me. Worried I might need something. Worried I might stay too long on the line. Worried that this call might disturb his life. My heart softened and cracked a little. "Yes, everything is fine," I said gently. "Just checking on you." "Oh, I'm good." A pause. A long one. "I'm at work, actually. Can I call later?" "Of course," I said quietly. He didn't call later. I didn't remind him. Sometimes silence feels kinder than asking. A few days later, I met his wife at the market. She saw me. I saw her. She hesitated before smiling. It was a polite smile, the kind you offer a neighbor, not family. "Auntie, how are you?" she asked. "I am fine," I replied softly. "How are you both?" "We are good," she said quickly, placing vegetables in her basket. "Very busy." Busy. That word again. It is strange how one word can feel like a closed door. I wanted to ask, "Do you ever think of me?" I wanted to ask, "Did I do something wrong?" I wanted to ask, "Why do I feel like a stranger to you?" But mothers don't ask these things. We swallow questions like medicine, bitter but necessary. Instead, I said, "That is good. May you always stay busy in good things." She nodded, then looked around as if she needed to go. When someone wants to leave, you feel it like a breeze slipping out of a window, soft but noticeable. "Visit sometime," I whispered. Yes, soon," she said with a hurried smile, already stepping back. Soon. A word made of air. Soft, weightless, and often not real. That night, my sister called. She always knew my silence too well. "You sound tired," she said. "I am fine," I replied the way people reply when they are holding fragile feelings in both hands. "Is it about him?" she asked gently. I did not answer. Silence is a mother's confession. "You must not cling too tightly," she said. "Children fly." "I know," I whispered. "I just thought wings would not forget the tree they grew from." Sometimes wisdom hurts more than truth, because wisdom stays. Truth passes. She sighed softly. "Give them time." Time. Another gentle ache. I thanked her. We hung up, and then I sat quietly, letting her words settle like dust on still furniture. In quiet days, small things become important. A bird building a nest near the window, the smell of warm bread, the way sunlight slowly moves across the floor. These small things saved me. But every so often, my heart would whisper, "Call him. He might miss you too." And I would reply to myself, "He will call when he remembers." It takes strength to wait. It takes more strength to wait without resentment. I tried to keep both. One evening, the sky turned gray. Clouds gathered like heavy thoughts. Rain began softly, gentle drops tapping the roof, the window, the earth. Rain always made me emotional. It reminds me of childhood, of comfort, of someone waiting for you to come home. I sat by the window, watching the street blur with raindrops. I remembered how he used to run inside as a little boy, shouting, "Mom, I am wet." And I would wrap him in a towel, warm his hands between mine, kiss his forehead. That memory wrapped itself around me like a blanket, and then slowly tightened, like a knot forming inside my chest. I reached for my phone again, not to call, just to check if he had sent a message. Nothing. I placed the phone down quietly. My heart felt tired. I whispered, "Love should not feel like a waiting room." But sometimes it does.
A week later, he finally called. I felt joy rush through me, fast, bright, like sunlight suddenly cutting through clouds. "Mom," he said, cheerful, "how are you?" My heart softened instantly. A mother's heart forgives before it even knows why. "I am well," I said gently. "I was thinking of you." "Oh, sorry I did not call earlier. Things have been crazy." "It is all right," I whispered. He talked for a few minutes about work, about friends, about a new restaurant they tried. Not once did he ask, "How are you really?" Not once did he say, "I miss you." But I listened, smiling, as though each word was a gift. Then he said, "Okay, Mom, we are going out. Talk later." "Yes," I replied. "Enjoy." And just before hanging up, without thinking, I said softly, "I miss you." There was a pause, a long one. Then he laughed lightly, almost awkwardly. "Aw, Mom, don't be emotional. I'm right here." Right here. Yet so far I could not touch him with words. After the call ended, silence filled the room again. Not angry silence, just quiet, aching silence. I placed my hand on my chest. My heart felt heavy, but not broken. Just tired of pretending it didn't hurt. After that call, something shifted inside me. Not anger. I do not have anger for him. Not resentment. Love does not allow resentment to grow easily. But acceptance. A soft, sad acceptance. The kind that comes when you finally stop tugging on a closed door. I decided not to call again unless he called first. Mothers rarely give up. We simply learn where to place our love without letting it fall to the ground. I began to change small things in my routine. I cooked less food. I stopped setting 2 cups for tea. I moved his photo to a smaller frame, not to forget, but to stop aching each time I passed it. I went for slow evening walks. I smiled at children playing on the street. I nodded at neighbors. One little girl waved at me every day. Her simple wave warmed me more than any phone call could at that moment. It reminded me that affection still existed in the world, even if mine felt paused. One evening, he did call again. His voice was hurried. "Mom, I need your recipe for the lentils." I smiled. Food, always the bridge between generations. "Of course," I said. I began explaining slowly. He listened. Or maybe he was only half listening. Then I heard her voice in the background, his wife. "Hurry up, we are late." He whispered to her, "I'm asking my mom."
And she said, not softly enough, "We can Google it. Why waste time?" The words were not cruel, but they pierced me softly like a pin in tender skin. Not needed, not necessary, replaceable. My voice trembled, but I kept it calm. "I will write it down for you and send a message," I said. "Okay, thanks, Mom. Gotta go." The line cut. I sat there, recipe in hand, heart in quiet pieces. That night, I prayed, not asking for anything, just speaking like a child seeking comfort. "Give me patience," I whispered. "Give me peace. Give me love without pain." And most softly, "Bring him back to me when his heart remembers." Then I closed my eyes. My tears did not fall. They stayed inside like water held behind gentle walls. I was not broken, just bruised. Bruises heal. Slowly, quietly, tender to touch, but not forever. If you have ever felt forgotten by someone you love, perhaps you know this feeling. It is not anger. It is not bitterness. It is a soft ache, a quiet longing, a wish that sits in your chest like a small candle trying not to go out. I did not want to disturb his happiness. I just wanted a place in it, even a small one. Love does not ask for center stage. It just asks for a corner to sit in. There comes a moment in every quiet sadness when silence becomes heavier than words. When holding pain inside feels like carrying water cupped in your hands, shaking, trembling, spilling drop by drop. I had been patient. I had been understanding. I had been gentle, even with my own hurt. But hearts are living things. Even the softest ones need warmth. Even the quietest ones eventually whisper, "I miss being loved out loud." This part of my story is not loud. It is not angry. It is simply the moment my heart decided to breathe again. It was a Sunday morning. The sun was kind, warm on the curtains. I was cleaning the shelves slowly, humming a tune from old days. My doorbell rang. I wiped my hands, walked slowly, and opened it. There they stood, my son and his wife, smiling politely, holding a cake box. "Mom, surprise," he said. My heart lifted, not fast, but softly, like a bird testing its wings again. "Come inside," I whispered. They stepped in. The house felt full again, walls remembering laughter, air remembering love. I brought tea, arranged plates, placed biscuits. They sat. They smiled. They talked. But something in their voices felt rehearsed, polite, like guests visiting, not children returning home. Still, I held gratitude quietly in my hands. They were here. That was enough. Or so I wanted to believe. We sat together. He spoke about work. She spoke about a new sofa they ordered. I smiled, nodded, listened. They asked no questions about me, not even simple ones. "How are you? Are you eating well? Do you feel lonely?" Not even that. Sometimes absence of questions hurts more than absence of answers. A home filled with voices can still feel empty when none of the voices ask about your heart. But I did not break. I stayed gentle, warm. Mothers hold themselves like glass filled to the brim but never spilling. "We bought cake," his wife said cheerfully. "It's from that new bakery." I smiled and took a small piece. They laughed about something together, an inside joke, a moment that belonged to only them. I watched them quietly. A mother does not need to be included to feel love, but a mother can feel when she is no longer seen. The cake was sweet, but I tasted loneliness more than sugar. After a little while, my son looked around and asked, "Mom, do you ever get bored alone here?" I smiled softly. "Sometimes, but it is peaceful." He nodded, not really hearing the depth behind the words. Then his wife added, "You should join some club or, meet friends your age." I looked at her, not angry, just surprised. Once I was someone with a life full of voices, neighbors, relatives, laughter, responsibilities. Now I was someone to be occupied, someone to be managed, someone they believed needed distraction, not belonging. I folded my hands in my lap and said quietly, "I have plants and memories that keep me company." She smiled as if that was cute. Sometimes, kindness delivered without understanding feels like a gentle misunderstanding of your soul. After just an hour, my son stood up and said, "Mom, we should go. We have lunch plans." I nodded. Of course. Their life was full. My house was only a brief stop, a pause between plans, not a destination, not a feeling of home. I walked them to the door. "Take care," he said, giving me a quick hug. She smiled politely. "We will try to come again soon." Soon. That soft floating word again. They walked away hand in hand. I stood silently at the door until they turned the corner. When I went back inside, the house felt larger again. Rooms echo louder when love steps out. I sat down slowly, and for the first time in many weeks, I let myself cry. Not loud, not broken, just quiet tears sliding down quietly, the kind that come from tenderness, not anger. A mother's tears are like prayers made of water, asking for nothing, only releasing what the heart can no longer hold. That evening, I made tea, 1 cup, only for me. I sat near the window. Rain began again, gentle on the glass, like heaven comforting earth. I spoke to myself softly. You are not unloved. You are not forgotten. They are building their life. You must build yours again too. Love does not end when children grow. It simply changes shape. But mothers, we must learn to change shape too. I realized then I had allowed all my joy to rest in one place, in one child, one role, one purpose. When that space grew quiet, I forgot where else I kept happiness. It was time to remember. The next morning, I woke early. I opened windows. I let sunlight in. I made tea with a calmer heart. And then I walked outside, not looking for him, not waiting for the phone, just walking, just breathing, just being. On the street, the little girl from before waved again. "Auntie," she giggled, "look, I have a balloon." I smiled. Her joy reached me like a warm touch on a tired shoulder. Small moments are medicine. Little joys are bandages for big wounds. Sometimes healing begins with a child's laughter you didn't expect to hear. Days passed quietly again, but something inside me had shifted. I no longer waited every hour, only sometimes. Like a soft habit, I was slowly teaching my heart to loosen. But one evening, as the sky turned orange and soft, my son called, "Mom, can we come over tomorrow? We have something to ask." I paused. Ask? Not visit. Ask. But I kept my voice warm. "Of course."
When I hung up, my heart felt gentle but cautious. That night, I prayed again, not for attention, but for wisdom. Let me speak without hurting. Let me love without losing myself. Let me forget expectations and only hold love. And as I lay down, one thought arrived like a whisper. Your worth is not measured by how often someone calls. That night, I slept deeper than I had in months, not because everything was fixed, but because I was finally learning to hold myself. Tomorrow they would come. Tomorrow words would be spoken. Tomorrow hearts would meet. Maybe clash, maybe soften. I did not know yet. But for the first time, I was not afraid of what tomorrow would bring. When a mother learns to stand with her own heart, the world cannot shake her anymore. And so part 3 ends here, at the edge of change, at the quiet strength before truth is spoken, at the doorstep of healing, still unsure, still tender. Tomorrow in my story, and in the next part for you, everything begins to shift, not with anger, but with gentle honesty, with soft truth, and a mother's strength learned the hard way. The next morning, I prepared slowly, not like a mother waiting for her children, not with excitement or worry, but with calm. I cleaned the table, arranged simple snacks, boiled tea leaves, and then sat quietly, hands folded in my lap, breathing softly. There was no trembling in my heart today, only a soft steadiness, the kind that arrives when you finally accept that love can stay even when circumstances change. At noon, the doorbell rang. I did not hurry. I walked steadily, gently, and opened the door. There they stood, my son and his wife. Hands clasped, expressions polite, almost formal. They smiled. I smiled back, but behind every smile, there was truth waiting. A visit with purpose. "Come in," I said softly. They sat on the couch. I sat across from them, not too close, not too far. My son looked around, as if seeing my home for the first time again. Simple, quiet, still. "This place is very peaceful," he said. I nodded. Peace can be lonely too, but I did not say that. After a few gentle sentences, they exchanged a glance. His wife cleared her throat first. "Auntie, we wanted to talk about something." I folded my hands. "Yes, my child?" She looked nervous, yet determined. My son looked away, avoiding my eyes. My heart prepared itself, not to break, but to listen. "We are thinking of moving to another city." The air inside the room felt still, like a held breath. For a moment, I said nothing, not because I was shocked, but because I had always known this day would come, one way or another. "Is it for work?" I asked softly. "Yes," my son replied. "Better opportunity, better life." "Of course," I whispered. "You should go where life calls you." I meant it, truly. But inside, a quiet ache whispered too. Life rarely calls in our direction once they leave.
His wife then added gently, "And before we go, we want to make sure you are okay, that you will not feel alone." I smiled. A real smile, warm with gratitude. "Thank you for thinking of me." She continued, hesitant. "We also wanted to ask if you would consider moving with us, or maybe staying with relatives, or joining a senior living community, so you are not by yourself." I listened, slowly, carefully. Their intention was not cruel. Their intention was concern, shaped clumsily, offered awkwardly, but coming from care. Sometimes love arrives in strange packaging. But I felt something shift in my chest, not from their suggestion, but from the realization that they believed I needed somewhere to belong, because they no longer saw me as belonging in their everyday life. I placed my hand softly on the table. "My dear children," I said, voice calm, slow, steady. "I am not alone because I live alone. I only felt alone when I was forgotten." Silence filled the room, like a still lake. My son looked up, finally meeting my eyes. "Mom?" I raised my hand gently. "Let me speak today." The words my heart held for months. "I am happy you found love. I am happy you built a life. That is what every mother dreams." They listened. Their faces softened slightly. "But when you forgot me, when days passed without hearing your voice, when I came to your home and felt like a guest," my voice wavered, but did not break. "It hurt, not because I wanted to be the center of your life, but because I thought I still had a small corner in it." My son's eyes glistened. His wife shifted, expression melting from pride into understanding. "I never wanted to disturb you," I whispered. "I only wanted to remain a part of your happiness, even a small part." Silence again, not cold this time, but heavy with emotion. I breathed gently. And I learned something. Slowly, painfully, but clearly. I looked at them with love, not blame. A mother must not hold all her joy in her child's hands. A mother must build her world too, after her children build theirs. A tear rolled down my son's cheek. He whispered, "Mom, I am sorry." His voice cracked, the way children's voices crack when guilt meets love. I smiled softly. "I am not angry. I never was. I just missed you." Their hearts finally opened. He moved to sit beside me. He took my hand, warm, trembling. "I did not realize," he said. "I thought you were strong. I thought you would always be fine." I placed my other hand over his. "We mothers make that mistake too. We pretend we never need anything, so our children believe us." His wife wiped her eyes quietly. "Auntie, I never meant to distance him. I was just trying to adjust to married life. I didn't know you felt this." I nodded softly. "You are not to blame. Marriage is a new journey, and when two people learn to love each other, sometimes they forget the ones who taught them how to love." She looked down, then whispered, "We will do better." I touched her hand gently. "I want to be part of your life, not a responsibility in it." She held my hand back, carefully, almost reverently. She said, "You are family." For the first time, I felt the truth in her words. Then I said the words I had been preparing quietly inside my soul. "I will not move with you." Their faces flickered, surprise, concern. "I will be okay," I continued calmly. "This home holds my memories, my life, my beginnings." "But," my son whispered. I smiled. "I will visit you. You will visit me. We will call and talk and share moments again." I placed my hand on his cheek like I did when he was small. "I do not want to follow your life. I want to meet you along the way." He cried then, quietly, shoulders shaking. Mom, I never wanted to hurt you. I know, I whispered. Sometimes life teaches us by gentle pain. His wife spoke slowly. We will call every week. We will visit before we leave. And when we are settled, we will bring you to see the new place. I nodded. That is enough. Not perfect, not everything, but enough. Because sometimes reconciliation is not a dramatic embrace. It is simply understanding, spoken softly between hearts. After tea and quiet conversation, they stood to leave, but this time, when they hugged me, it felt different. Not quick, not distracted, but long, warm, real. My son whispered, I love you, Mom. Truly. I closed my eyes. Love does not need to be loud to be strong. I love you too, I said, holding him gently, and I am proud of you. Go build your life. They walked away again. But this time, the house did not feel empty when the door closed. It felt peaceful, settled, steady. Because loneliness hurts when love feels lost. But when love is found again, even quietly, solitude becomes comfort, not sorrow. I sat by the window once more, made 1 cup of tea, held it in both hands, and smiled softly. Tomorrow would come, and tomorrow would be okay. I sat by the window once more, made 1 cup of tea, held it in both hands, and smiled softly. Tomorrow would come, and tomorrow would be okay. If you have ever held love silently in your heart, if you have ever waited without blaming, if you have ever felt forgotten, yet still loved, know this. Sometimes the heart breaks a little to grow wider. Sometimes silence teaches us the value of gentle words. Sometimes distance reminds us where home truly is, not in a place, but in a bond. I learned that I can love without losing myself. I learned that asking gently is not weakness. I learned that mothers also deserve to be held, not just to hold. And most importantly, I learned that when spoken softly, truth can heal more than time alone ever could. This chapter ends not in pain, but in understanding and quiet hope. After they left that day, the house felt still, but it was not the same stillness as before. Earlier, quiet meant waiting. Now, quiet meant peace. I made a cup of tea that evening, the same tea I always make, but it tasted different, softer, warmer. Not because the tea changed, but because my heart had finally loosened its grip on sorrow. I sat near the window watching the sky fade into dusk. Birds flew home, lights came on in the houses nearby. Life continued, and for the first time in months, I smiled without forcing it. I whispered to myself, I am all right. And I truly was. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise. I lit a small candle, a habit from the old days. I made breakfast. I watered my plants. I swept the floor slowly, humming under my breath. And then I sat at the table, placed my hands around a warm cup, and let the morning sun rest on my face. No rush, no worry, just life. Simple, gentle, quiet. When we stop living inside our pain, we begin living in the world again. That day, I went for a short walk. The air felt fresh. Flowers on the roadside looked brighter. Children ran past me, laughing, backpacks bouncing. Life had color again. Sometimes healing isn't loud. Sometimes it arrives silently, like a soft breeze touching your cheek when you are not expecting it. Around afternoon, my phone rang. I looked at it, expecting some usual call, but the screen showed a name that made my heart pause. My son. I answered calmly, not with excitement, not with fear, just with love. Assalamu alaikum, Mom. Wa alaikum salam, my son. His voice sounded gentle, a little careful, as if he had finally learned how precious a mother's heart is. How are you today? He asked. I smiled. I am peaceful. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said softly, that makes me happy. We talked only for a few minutes. Simple words, nothing dramatic, but it meant more to me than long speeches and apologies. Sometimes love isn't proven by grand gestures. Sometimes it shows through a simple act, a phone call, made not out of duty, but longing. In the following weeks, they called regularly, not daily, but often enough that I never felt forgotten. Sometimes we spoke just about meals, sometimes about weather, sometimes about nothing important at all. But every call stitched something back inside me. Every call reminded me that relationships don't shatter all at once, and they don't repair suddenly either. They soften slowly, like dough rising under a cloth. One day, his wife called me herself, just to ask how I was feeling. That call touched me too, not because she had to make it, but because she chose to. Love grows in small acts, not large promises. Soon, the time came for them to move to their new city. They visited me again before leaving. Not empty-handed this time. They brought fruits, snacks, and even a shawl for me. But gifts were not what warmed my heart. What warmed me was that they sat comfortably, as if my home was still theirs too. No awkward silence, no rushed glances at the door. Real presence, real warmth. Before they left, my son hugged me again, tighter this time, longer. Come visit us when you're ready, he whispered. I will, I replied gently. His wife touched my hand and said, we will stay in touch. Please tell us if you need anything, anytime. I nodded. I will, my child, and I pray for your happiness always. They left again, but this time it did not feel like abandonment. It felt like life moving forward, as it should. After they moved, I did not sit waiting by the phone anymore. I did not measure love by calls or messages. Instead, I built a little routine for myself. I joined a small local reading group. Just some neighbors sitting together, sharing poems and chai. Nothing fancy, but warm. I started taking evening walks. I planted herbs on my windowsill. I even learned a new recipe one afternoon, laughing at myself when the dough stuck to my hands. Life had space again, not empty space, open space, a space to breathe. When we stop holding our happiness hostage to someone else's schedule, we start living again. A few months later, they invited me to see their new place. I traveled by train, slow, steady, humming like a lullaby. When I arrived, they were waiting at the station, smiling, waving. My son took my bag before I could say anything. His wife held my arm gently as we walked out. Their home was warm and cozy. Sunlight poured into the living room. A small plant stood near the window. Pictures of them smiled from the walls. And there, on a small shelf, was one picture of me, my husband, and my son when he was a boy. That single picture meant more than 1,000 apologies. They had not forgotten where their story began. They showed me the home proudly. They made tea for me. We cooked together. We talked quietly, without hesitation. They did not treat me like a burden, and I did not treat them like a guarantee of happiness. We simply shared time. Soft, slow, honest time. That night, after dinner, my son came and sat beside me on the balcony. City lights blinked below. A cool breeze brushed our faces. He spoke softly, eyes on the sky. "Mom, I really did not know how much you missed me." I placed my hand on his. "It is all right. Every child forgets sometimes. Every mother forgives." He shook his head gently. "But I don't want you to hurt like that again." I smiled. "You did not cause my pain. Love caused it, and love healed it too." Tears filled his eyes again, not heavy, just soft. He leaned his head slightly on my shoulder, just for a moment. And in that moment, we were not adult and elder, not husband and wife, not mother-in-law and daughter-in-law's concern. We were simply...
After a few days, I returned home. But this time, I did not return to loneliness. I returned to my life. I placed a small framed photo from their house on my shelf. I made tea. I sat near the window, and I smiled. Because love does not weaken with distance. It only weakens when unspoken. And now we had spoken. My story is simple. No loud drama, no shouting, no grand endings. Just a journey of love rediscovered, quietly, slowly, gently. And if someone listening right now has felt forgotten, if your heart has waited too long in silence, please hear this. Sometimes people do not forget us intentionally. Sometimes life simply becomes loud for them. And sometimes we must speak softly to remind them that our hearts are still here. Love is not lost when distance happens. Love is lost when silence becomes a wall. So speak, gently, with love, not to hold someone back, but to hold space in their life. And build your life too. Your joy matters, not only as a mother, but as a person. One day, your heart will thank you, just like mine did. If today felt heavy, breathe. If love feels far, wait with patience, not bitterness. If your heart aches quietly, know you are not alone. Someone, somewhere, feels exactly like you. And one day, the ones who drifted may return, not because you demanded love, but because you offered it, even when it hurt. Love, when gentle, always finds its way home.